Did you know that hypnotherapy is basically like the Force from Star Wars? Used correctly, it can be an incredible tool, but in the wrong hands, it can do terrible things. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what a character says in this movie. Hypnotic is a new Netflix movie starring discount bin Angelina Jolie as Jennifer, a woman who has suffered a pretty horrific tragedy and hasn't been coping with it very well. This leads her to try hypnotherapy with a psychiatrist on her friend's recommendation. And soon after that first session, Jennifer starts to realize that things aren't quite so great and that handsome therapist just might be up to no good. You know what? As silly as this movie is, and it is silly, I found myself enjoying it. Full disclosure, I may or may not have been having a few drinks during my viewing of the movie, which may or may not have influenced my level of enjoyment. It's not a movie that is so bad that it's just super easy to tear into, but there are a couple glaring issues that I would like to talk about. Yes, Jennifer suffered a horrible tragedy in her life, and that's the reason why the hypnotherapy is suggested as a solution. But honestly, the way that it's actually handled in the story is just by her friend nagging her and insisting that she go see this therapist that worked so well for her. That's it. We don't actually see Jennifer suffering from the fallout or the aftermath of the tragedy she lived through, outside of the fact that she's got a fairly broken relationship with her ex. But you know what? Even then, she can still be in the same room with him and carry a very mature adult conversation. So what's the problem? Why the therapy? Ah, yes, to move the plot along. If they had stressed the issues being caused by that tragedy and actually showed us some real negative effects of what she is experiencing in her life because of that, that would have helped sell the whole reason of why she thinks she actually needs therapy. And the therapist himself. Man, I was going to rip on this and say, like, the movie doesn't even try to hide the fact that this guy is bad news. And it doesn't. When Jennifer meets him for the first time, it's at a housewarming party of her best friend who had him as her therapist. It's a little bit of a red flag, don't you think? Yeah, sure, jokes are made about him hanging around with his patients, but it's all kind of... But we didn't even need to get that far because the way that the movie's shot, as soon as we see him, the very first shot of his character as he walks into the room, he doesn't even say anything. You immediately know, if you've ever seen any movie, you're like, that's the bad guy. Right there, that's the bad guy. And this was going to be my whole spiel, but I can't actually leave this as a very strong bullet point since on the poster it says, his wish is her command. So we kind of know what we're getting into with him. So still, a little intrigue, a little bit more intrigue would have been nice. Moving on. Those things aside, this movie was really fun to watch. It basically treats hypnosis as all-out mind control, and if you can get on board with that concept and just accept it, this is a fun little thriller. Sure, the performances are a little soap opera-y, and the plot definitely is. But the production value and the direction keep everything elevated, albeit elevated just above average, but elevated enough for me to recommend it. There are a lot of moments in the movie where you can pretty much guess exactly what's going to happen, but there were also enough of those moments that did end up surprising me, and that really helped keep me engaged. The movie also doesn't waste any time. It's like an hour and 25 minutes, so it's like the perfect movie to put on when you just can't decide what else to watch, unless you've already seen Hypnotic, then I don't know. It's one of those movies where the cast involved we're probably having fun chewing the scenery. Like, the writing isn't good, but the performances from that writing, along with the direction, are entertaining. Like, it's this weird sort of in-between space where your brain's like, this shouldn't be as entertaining as it is. I know that this is bad, but man, am I having a good time. The three huge standouts in this movie are Jennifer, the therapist, and the police officer that has sort of been on the therapist's case, no pun intended. They're not award-winning performances, but you can tell that they looked like they were having fun. Like, each of them were defined characters, and that's not something you usually see in a movie like this. Now listen, I know it sounds like I'm really singing this movie's praises and saying that it's like the best movie of the, week? No, that's not it at all. Here it is. It's not a good movie, but it's not a bad movie either. It's a 6.5 out of 10, especially if you have a few cocktails while you're watching it. Just saying. So what about you? Have you guys seen Hypnotic? It's a Netflix original, available to stream now. If you have seen it, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one. Yes, Jennifer suffered a horrible physical